having
They said
I
it
guess
tastes more
is they
like just a
probably-
sugar.
3 or 4% less than what he's ever borrowed before. Our rates are,
Yeah, but they may be
yeah, I mean, it's,
having more people there than
Oreo, chocolate.
limit, or limit the numbers.
are they good? They
Yeah.
must be.
I think they are.
Yeah, they're all good, I'm sure.
Did you get to visit with the Swensons?
I did,
Good.
quite a while, that was good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. So
How was,
Yeah. So,
so,
you're good. You guys don't think you're missing out.
For you,
Good.
I don't know where, I think Jerry went.
if I fall asleep, I've been on the end of a shovel all day. I've been on the end of a shovel all day.
Chat why you can hate someone just for the color of their skin.
Digging utilities for our pavilion. Yeah, I'm trying to get it done so we can have a planning commission party.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Two kids born in Jackson.
That would be
But it's a
really
lot of digging. I have to run water.
Yeah. Well, the one was kind of a surprise.
done that, especially the last while.
Yeah, it's been,
Kids from the place
Okay.
that they were conceived.
Oh, is
And he's
that
got a daughter named Dallas.
Dallas.
It's a good thing you wouldn't win a muck.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
We're gonna go ahead and start.
Or something.
Okay, we'd like to welcome all of you to Planning Commission meeting this evening. All of the commissioners and our public. This is Planning Commission meeting for the 11th, 2021. The meeting is being recorded. We're going to begin with an opening prayer by Commissioner Showers, and then a pledge of allegiance by Commissioner Marchbanks.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for this day. We're grateful for this beautiful spring weather and for the beautiful community in which we live. We're grateful to be part of this planning and zoning meeting tonight, and we pray that we can think through the issues and make good decisions that will benefit all involved. We pray for the leadership of our community and for the staff, for the great work that they're doing. And we ask for these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Let all rise, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll begin with an audible roll call of commissioners. Sharon Call, here. Mike Marchbanks.
Here.
Jared Showers.
Here.
Rob Callis.
Here.
And Commissioner Johnson may be joining us later. Scott Thompson.
here.
Renee Tribe. Here. Just came in. Okay, we've received the minutes from April 27th, 2021. Had a chance to review those. Do we have any corrections or additions to those minutes? Okay, do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous, and Commissioner Johnson has joined us. Okay. Item number 3, this is a time for public comment. This would be for any items not already on the agenda. Okay. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing. So we do need a motion to open a public hearing.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous on that. Okay, item number 4 is a public hearing for a zoning map amendment. This is at 550 North State Street, and Anders Bake from city staff is our presenter. And then I assume you're from Lubbock Sales. Would you like to come up and join us? Thank you.
Already to item 4, huh?
Yeah, Yeah, we're zipping tonight. Thank you so much for being here.
Glad to be here.
Okay, and we'll let Anders go ahead.
Thank you. So this request is for a zone map amendment to change the zoning of a portion of the property at 550 North State Street from general commercial to general commercial A. This request was originally part of a request for all of that property at 550 North State Street. But since then, and that request was to do the planned residential development overlay, which would include commercial development as well as residential townhomes. Since then, the applicant has decided to separate their request from that one and just request the zone change to general commercial A for just this portion of the property that you can see on the map there in the white box. And so they've submitted a separate application for that zone map amendment. And so the purpose of this request is to allow for Lowbook Sales to expand their business south of where they currently are into that property and continue using that as a display lot for used automobiles. Properties in the general commercial A zone follow the same development requirements for properties in the general commercial zone. There's requirements in that ordinance specifically for vehicle sales lots that are different and specify requirements for parking and landscaping and display, but those apply to both properties in general commercial and general commercial A. So the only difference between these two zones is in our standard land use table, where it says that used vehicle sales lots are not permitted in the general commercial zone, but are permitted in the general commercial A zone. And so that's why they're making that request. This map is a portion of our zoning map. So you can see here there's the existing Lowbook Sales property that has that general commercial A zone in the darker red, and then the property that's that they're proposing the zone map amendment is in the white box. The two properties across the street from State Street also have that general commercial A zone. So yeah, this request would then just make that also general commercial A. So I'll go back here. The motion for this request, I move to recommend deny or continue ordinance 2020-6-0, -0, to amend the Lindon City zoning map from general commercial to general commercial A at approximately 550 North State Street with parcel number 14-067-0187 and a portion of 14-068-0304. Also attached to the staff report is the exact dimensions of that area that's that they're requesting the zone change, and so it does cover a portion of two different parcels.
Go for that in a heartbeat.
Does the commission have any questions for me or the applicant?
You sure you're getting enough property? Would go more if you wanted to.
Well,
It's a good start.
I think this is what we had hoped would happen to start with, isn't it? I think that was kind of the commission's, so that the two properties weren't tied together as far as the zoning.
Well, initially,
And-
we thought, based on the recommendations that it should go through, but I didn't realize how contentious it was gonna be because I attended all three of the planning meetings.
Yeah.
And nobody seemed to have any objections to our request, but we couldn't separate them, so that's why
Right.
we're here today, and I just appreciate everyone's efforts and, in supporting this, and the patience that everyone's had over the last several months.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
I have two questions.
Okay.
One, if you go to the map where it was showing the rezone, this is more, I don't want a problem for them. Does that road go through? I mean, I know there's been contentions about that road. I just don't, are there gonna be problems with the master plan, Mike, with that? It looks like the master plan road goes.
through, it would be further south than we are. So what our general plan says is those roads are in the approximate location.
Okay, so we're fine with that. Perfect. Just didn't want that to be a problem. The only other question I have is once it's zoned general commercial A, is there anything, and I know this isn't their intention, it's more future, preventing that to be being sold off later and becoming a separate car lot? Is there any way to make it so it's one? You know, I know they're separate properties or whatever.
I think we asked that as well when we first met, and, I apologize, I can't remember the owner's name. David Nilsson. David, I believe he Yeah. said he had a loan on the existing parcel, but once that loan was taken care of, then he didn't have a problem, but he couldn't combine the two right now.
Right, so I don't know if there's a way to put a condition saying that it can't be sold as a second car
Car
lot.
lot?
That would be my only concern. And I know that's not their intention.
That's not our
It's
intention.
more-
I think, let me pull up the dealership ordinance, they may have to have a building, a separate building on that lot.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
Okay, so they possibly could, cause it meets the minimum 1 acre, but.
I guess that's what I'm saying is could it, you know,
But the one thing, couple things to look at, they'd have to add a building to it, but the other thing is too, I don't think UDOT would give access.
Yeah.
then that solves the problem.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really hard, cause we're not planning on putting access
Especially,
to State Street. from
I
there.
guess especially if a road does go through right next to it, there wouldn't be access within 250 or 300 feet or whatever.
350 feet, cause it's a public streets.
Okay. That answers my question.
So,
I have a couple questions.
okay, go ahead.
Just question the way it's worded, and a portion of another lot. So so there's one parcel that is actually gonna have two different designations? And is that unique? Is that, I mean, it seems like we'd generally do a whole parcel one, rather than in this case, you're taking a portion because that's Elwood Holdings, right?
So
Yeah,
The thing, that's why we're getting the legal description, so when Elwood Holdings does come through with their subdivision approval, those legal descriptions will match up.
Okay. And then, I've noticed in the Elwood, some of the Elwood proposals, they keep saying that there's a portion up there that you guys don't want, and they want to sort of encroach into the 300 feet. Does this prevent that, or is that still an option for them?
Yeah, their proposal would not encroach into this parcel's 300 feet.
Okay.
Is that line the 300 feet, the top, the east line?
The east line
is the 300 feet.
Is exactly 300 feet off State
Perfect.
Street.
So one of the questions I asked Mike was if this portion, part of that is Elwood sales or holdings, but a big portion of that is not, is
The
that?
Nortons still own the majority of this lot.
Okay, that was my question, is who the purchase is being bought from?
Yeah, we actually, the Norton family still owns the majority of that.
Okay,
And I believe that they actually, Elwood doesn't own any of this. It's all Elwood, or excuse me, all Nortons.
oh, is it?
Yeah,
Okay,
and-
that was one of
and
my
so
questions.
And so Elwood has to actually purchase a little more from the Nortons to complete their next south lot.
Okay,
So, but that gets all taken care of when as we've gotten the legal description figured out there that's been presented. That's what gets transferred to Low Book Sales, and the balance would get transferred to Elwood Holdings to finish the 20 feet or so of property. The reasoning for that was Elwood purchased the Norton property back in August of 2020. And at that time, the 300 feet definition was different than it is today. And so we had a different configuration of that property. And so now it's corrected, so.
Okay.
And Mike, or Anders, just to understand, this will all be then part of the subdivision of the big one, and this will be one lot when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
Okay.
It would be
Right, I mean, it's
separate
just,
lot from,
right now, we're doing the legal description, but as part of everything, it'll get all divided and sliced correctly, and
Yeah, I imagine they'll do a boundary line agreement right now.
Yep.
And then when it comes through with the subdivision, they'll plat the lot.
So it's not gonna be platted right out of the chute as a one-lot subdivision, it's gonna be incorporated into,
Our intention is to go ahead forward with a subdivision immediately and not be part of Elwood.
so do a one-lot subdivision.
Yes.
Okay.
well, I don't see any problem with that,
I
do
don't
you,
either.
Mike?
No, because we'll have the legal description as part of the.
Yeah,
document
right.
ordinance.
In fact, that's what I'd do if
That's-
I was them, I'd
that's
do a
perfect.
one-lot
Yeah,
subdivision.
we'd like to move forward so we have subdivision and site plan review, so as you know where
Quick
the
as possible.
landscaping is, all the parking, so that it can be moved forward and they can get going on their truck plan.
Yep.
Okay.
I guess one question I have is, one of the resident comments was the problems with parking in their neighborhoods and up and down the street. Will having more property make it so that that isn't a problem?
It should be very helpful to that problem, because we've had to acquire a lot of inventory when we
Right,
can, and for the last several years, we've bought a lot of inventory in the months of November, December, and that's when our lots are the fullest, and sometimes we'd have to have employees park outside on the street.
okay,
And we'd usually park on that road that's directly outside of us, not on 600 North. We ask
okay,
our employees not to park on there,
okay. Yeah, because I can understand why they,
because that one's a
Wouldn't
busier
want that
road and it's a
parking.
little more narrow,
uh-huh,
so we do try to honor that. We also still have our sign up there that says no right-hand turn.
uh-huh,
Occasionally, somebody still does that,
yeah,
but it's rare.
Sharon,
uh-huh,
I want to just continue with that. I realize this is a zoning hearing, but the only people that can control the employees not parking there is you guys.
Yeah.
So, can you do more than just try? I mean,
It's a difficult thing, because we try to maximize, and with this additional almost 2 acres, that'll provide a lot more space for our
Yeah.
inventory. Because like in acquiring the trucks, we're buying these, committing to these trucks, 6 to 8 weeks in advance. And we don't have necessary control on when they come or what our sales happen to be that month.
Yeah.
So that just, it's an art.
I understand that, but, I mean, the inventory is what you make your money on.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you have a choice between inventory or parking for employees, most people are gonna choose inventory space.
Yeah,
But you can tell to your employees, hey, if you park in the neighborhoods, find a job somewhere else.
Is there not,
Just a minute,
sorry,
so what is the law about parking in the neighborhoods for what period of time, staff?
So really, our ordinance does say they're required to provide parking for their employees and their customers on their property.
Okay,
So they can't
yeah,
be taking up employee and customer parking stalls with
Yeah.
inventory.
so I'm all for this, but when you come back for your site plan, just know that if we
Yeah.
don't see employee parking, I won't be voting for it.
Oh, there'll be, we'll have
Okay.
room for employee
There
parking.
needs to be some designated.
And I think we've tried to be very conscientious
Yeah,
about it. We
I know how
have
that
not
goes.
wanted to do that, but occasionally
I
it's
know.
happened. And the most I could ever see, I think I can recall 4 cars parked out there. That's the maximum that
I
has
know,
ever been
but
out on the street.
we sure got a lot of complaints about it in our other meetings, so.
Okay. All right.
This is a public hearing, and we've had some residents join us.
And actually, the other agent also
Yeah.
representing
Oh,
themselves,
okay.
and this is
Yeah.
Ron Norton representing the.
Okay, it's hard to tell under masks.
I don't know. tiny.
Yeah,
So thanks for giving us the
and
knowledge
sir,
once.
I'm helping them with the
that's what I
engineering.
thought.
and
Yeah,
the
I thought you were with
engineer.
them, yeah.
Turned into a private party.
I like your pink mask.
Thank you for seeing us. I appreciate it.
Okay. Is there any other input for us, or should we close the public hearing and discuss it with the commission? Anything else we need to do? Hear from, okay,
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
okay,
I second that motion.
okay. Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous. Okay, is there discussion among the commissioners?
My comments are, I feel very good about this, and I've been for it for a long time. Just maybe a clarification on the percentage. When the other development comes back, we had set a certain, the ordinance calls for a certain percentage of it to be commercial. How are you gonna handle that percentage? Is this gonna be carved off, and then the residual has to meet the ordinance, or is this included in the ordinance, or what did we decide to do there?
Yeah, so the ordinance
It's
says
not
they have to pull building permits for 25% of the commercial. This doesn't count because there's no building permit issued for this property. So the Elwood Holdings will have to pull a building permit for 25% of what they're doing.
And so this wouldn't change that at all, right? Because there's no buildings, so it doesn't, that has no.
Doesn't.
Good. That's what I thought, but I just wanted.
Okay, any other questions or discussion?
I think we're pretty much all for it
I think so too.
during the other process, so.
Yeah, and it's good to have it separated out so it's not, doesn't become so complex. Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I move to recommend approval of ordinance 2020-6-0 to amend the Lindon City zoning map from general commercial to general commercial A at approximately 550 North State Street with parcel number 14-067-0187 and a portion of 14-068-0304.
Commissioner, just one correction on that. That should be 2021
Oh, yeah, it shouldn't it, that ordinance? I'll make that correction, ordinance 2021-6-0.
okay. I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous. And thank you all for being here again. Appreciate it. Okay. Okay, the next item on our agenda is also a public hearing. So we do need a motion to open a public hearing.
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Go ahead.
I second.
Okay, motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Renee,
Renee did.
okay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous. And this is an ordinance amendment for the Lindon City Standard Land Use Table. And our applicant's Lindon City, and Michael Florence is our presenting staff.
Yeah, thank you, commissioners. So a while back, the council asked us to look at reception centers and, what can we do to better buffer those from residential. There's one particular reception center I get a number of emails about every weekend. And so as Brian Hawes and I looked at this, we felt that, a buffer separation is proposed before you that says the wedding/event reception centers must be located at least 500 feet away from any area zoned primarily for residential uses measured from the property line to property line. distance restriction does not apply to the commercial farm zone. And so what we're proposing is a 500-foot separation. Our current buffering is a 7-foot wall. If there's parking next to that wall, there's 10 feet of landscaping that needs to go in with trees. But so we feel like that there needs to be a greater buffer. We've recently received other interested parties that have wanted to put in reception centers in Lindon, and those were close to across the street from residential homes, and so we were worried about the future impact as well. So we put a map together that kind of just shows where 500 feet shows up. What does that distance look like according to where these current reception centers are located. This won't affect our current ones at all. This is mainly just to show you, kind of that buffer area. As you,
So basically, it keeps them out of residential areas.
it does,
Keeps them out of residential areas, so if somebody comes to us and tries to do commercial farm again.
well, no, commercial farm would be fine.
But they would have to convert to that, right?
No, not necessarily. So they would have to find a location, along State Street or on the west side of town that is 500 feet away from a residential area.
So my only question there, Mike, is there any land on State Street that is 500 feet away from?
There's not a.
Do you know what I'm saying? So I
Yeah.
think we're precluding a reception center from being on State Street.
Yeah, and that was one of our discussions, is 500 feet the right buffer. But yes, you have 8 reception centers in Lindon. So that would preclude most on State Street.
So where in the city could we have one with this ordinance? That's more my question.
Yeah, you're looking more on the west side of town.
Isn't it?
You could do them along 700 North in our Lindon Village zone.
Okay.
You could, again, west side of town, you could probably do one if one of these buildings converted in front of Walmart. Possibly, there at Second South and State Street. But other than that, it is limited.
It's very limited.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've got plenty already.
So just a clarification, so Wadley Farms and Walker Farms
They're the only two
are
farm.
their reception centers under the zone of
Commercial farm.
commercial farms.
Right.
This amendment is not to that zone,
Correct.
but is to a wedding zone.
It's to a wedding and event center use.
So someone could come in and ask for a farm zone again.
They would, now they've got to put together, I think, 4 or 5 acres to be
Right.
able to do that.
Right.
Right.
So it's,
4 or 5 acres, maybe 500 feet. You could never put one on there, but I don't know.
So why did you
but
not?
this wouldn't apply to that.
Right, but I'm just wondering why it doesn't.
Just
'Cause I
because
think that's where the most noise is gonna,
I don't get complaints from those 2 reception centers because they have tons of parking. Walker Farms actually has the elementary school across the street. So it's the lighting that spill over. For example, the Wild Oak, they're supposed to have down lighting. Well, they want their lighting to point more towards their open area in the back, so then they go raise it up. And so then that starts to spill over into the residential areas, and then parking's the number one concern.
I'm just not clear why we don't make that, if you feel like that's the best adjustment to the zone, why isn't it made to both zones?
It was mainly for parking was one of the main concerns. Like the commercial farm zone, when you've got 5 acres, you've got a lot of area for parking.
Yeah, but you could be right up against
But
the
yeah,
residential area.
Yeah,
Right,
Yeah.
so that's sort of what I was implying too. Are there any groves that are still in Lindon that somebody could go in and carve out a piece out of the middle and say, we're gonna put and try to get that commercial.
Yeah, I think
And
there's
then
big enough, some
There-
big enough
there are.
parcels
I
to
mean,
do that.
You do have to maintain a farming operation.
Right.
Yeah, I think 40%.
40%.
I'm just saying, I just don't want that to be an exception to this. If we create this and then somebody goes, well, the way around this is we're gonna go create a commercial farm zone and then we'll, so we just need to be aware of that if it comes back to the council. Because if the 500 feet doesn't apply to them,
And again, that's a legislative act, so you'd have to do a zone change for a commercial farm zone. So if you don't,
okay.
And that sounds like that's not what we're concerned about at this point.
yeah, I haven't had any.
I'm surprised, I'm surprised anybody's even thinking about another reception center.
No, with as many as we
They've
have.
been, we have 3 on our books at the bank, and man, they've been, I mean, shut right down. I mean, I can't even imagine anybody would wanna.
Let me tell you though,
Going
I've
to that
got a son
business.
getting married in August.
Uh-huh.
They can't find one open.
Well, it's because of the pent-up demand,
Right.
but that's gonna go away after.
Well, and August is one of the worst months.
August is a bad month, but.
It was, the other one was here on the corner next to Walmart. And, I asked the lady, I said, where are you gonna do with the overflow parking? And she's like, oh, we'll just tell them to park at Walmart. And I'm like, well, is Walmart good with that? And she's like, well, I'd have to ask them. And I'm like, if Walmart's not good with that, where's that parking gonna end up?
Yeah.
It's gonna end up on 550 and 575 there.
Right, and this would preclude that because of the
This
residential.
would, yes.
Well, and Mike brought up Mike Venturi, but I also talked with you about it, of all the complaints with that Wild Oak every weekend because, they're prohibited with parking on Gilman Lane, but where people are parking is in all the cul-de-sacs.
Oh, really? In the neighborhoods?
So they're parking in these 2 cul-de-sacs here.
That's not good.
So they have 68 parking stalls for their site, plus they've leased all the parking here at the church. So they've got 100 stalls that still aren't, they still need more.
So if they can't provide more parking, can you limit the number of guests they can have?
That's what we need to talk to them about. We've talked to them in the past about that, but it didn't go too far with them.
Did they get complaints mostly about parking, or are they pretty noisy over there too? I mean, they're playing music outside because they're dancing outside, or
Yeah, I didn't get, I
bet
I
it's
have-
a parking issue.
mostly parking?
It's mostly parking. When they first opened, it was the lighting, because they were redirecting the lighting to this, to the open area back here. But everything's parking right now. I used to get a lot, when I first started here, I would get quite a few calls about the barn at the Lindon Nursery. That was mainly about
Yeah.
noise.
Yeah,
I got quite a few noise complaints about that one.
but not now?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
The new
Yeah, for
development
that-
that goes in there may start.
Yeah.
Cold too, so outside noise
Yeah.
probably will start up in the next month or so.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'd be interested in how you can,
So
with
the one-
complaints like that on that Wild Oak, because that was one of their big concerns, is the parking.
And this is kind of where we came up with the 500, from the entrance of Wild Oak to that cul-de-sac's 434 feet. And, they've got 4 to 6 cars there parking all the time, just on the beginning of 470 and stuff. And so that's kind of where we came up with that 500.
How's the 500 measured, from the center of the parcel?
Now it's measured from property line to property line. So whatever's the closest property line to a residential use.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's like you said, there's maybe 5 spots in the whole city that would qualify.
Yeah.
Yeah. The west side's got probably more, but.
Okay.
So the one reception center that was over there across from Johnson's, your brother,
Uh-huh.
is it still a reception center?
Yeah, well, they've still got a business license. We just don't hear much
That
from them.
Orion or
They
whatever
very,
it is?
very rarely have anything in there, I don't know.
Which one is this we're talking about?
Orion, which is right
Orion?
there.
Down there by Bella
They don't
Vista.
have much
and-
park. Well, I guess they've got quite a bit of parking.
I'm grateful that when we go to his house for dinner, we have a place to park now, so. Cause I mean, they just don't use it, but
Is there something that your brother lives there somewhere?
my brother lives in the house right across the street
Oh, I see.
in 334.
And then Mike was saying that Noah's is another company now that's,
Yeah, they changed the signage on it
yeah,
this week.
running that, so that's open again.
But as a reception center,
Yes.
is it?
Uh-huh.
I wondered what it was.
It's reception or events. I mean, they have lots of different
Yeah.
room sizes. You could have a
Yeah.
business meeting there.
Yeah. Or other events, yeah. So, I think it would protect the neighborhoods. And plus, I'm wondering if Lindon needs too many more reception centers. So I think it would control both of those things. So those are my thoughts. Anyone else?
Well, this is just a land use table.
Well, yeah, this is the standard land use table, but,
So is it currently 300? I keep seeing 300.
you wanna do 300
No,
or
I'm
500?
seeing somewhere down here where it says, where it says 300 feet. Is that the existing one? Cause there's two of them.
I don't think it was.
Cause this one, you scroll down, it says 300 feet.
Oh, you know what, we forgot to change it in the actual ordinance.
Oh, okay.
We
Okay.
went back and forth between 300 and 500, then we said, okay, let's talk to the commission and see if they want, let's go with 500 and see if they wanna roll that back.
Okay, yeah, cause I just saw that.
Yeah, thanks for catching that.
And I guess, Mike, with that, would 300 make any difference once property line to property line? I mean, if you go to the property line, I don't see reducing it to 300 making
A huge difference.
any difference as far as what could be built. I mean, I can see if you went from the center or whatever, but if you go to the edge of the property line,
90% of the parcels.
I just don't see.
So if we did,
Is that a
you know, for
problem,
example,
or
here's
do you
500
think it's
feet,
okay?
North would be a great spot for it.
Yeah, yeah.
measure from that property line, and there's 300.
Right, you're gonna hit residential.
They could do it
They
there,
could
though.
do it there.
Uh-huh, yeah.
So now, Mike, just encourage everybody who comes in and wants to do
I
something.
guess in
down into
theory,
7
could they
North.
do one in the middle of the field there
Whatever,
behind the
700
church?
North, you know, down near the MRI building or something.
Yeah.
That'd be a good use for.
You know, it's that one
This
right
one.
there.
It's zoned residential. Can measure that.
Right, so,
Everybody's here in the new too.
but no, but see, it'd be from that property line, so,
Everybody's
Here,
here.
474.
Here and there.
I don't know where the church's property, I don't know if it's right here.
well, but I guess what I'm saying, if they built on that parcel, you still go clear to the property line, and it's bordering residential.
Yeah,
So that's, why I don't think 300.
And it's across
3
the
or
street
5 's
from
gonna
Wild
make any
Oaks.
difference.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd do it there. If they did a good business plan,
Well, they couldn't.
they'd have one across the street.
Join the residential.
It'd be better up on 700.
I'm okay with leaving it at 500.
Yeah, I agree.
So am I just brought it up because I saw the error.
yeah, thank you for
300
catching
in
that.
here. So that's why I was
Right,
wondering if
right.
there was a question.
No, that was just an error. Do we want to go ahead with a motion?
Well, I just always struggle, I mean, we had a moratorium on car lots, and then now we've changed that, or we have, I hate just putting the kibosh on, I don't know, I struggle with that, but I see the point, and I see the need for being able to park, but would it be better to increase the parking requirement for these types of businesses versus doing something that just eliminates them? You know, what if we doubled the amount of parking they had to have, or something to,
I like this because I'm not sure, I mean, at what point do we want more reception centers?
Well,
But that's not for us to decide.
right,
That's
our
what
choice to
will the
regulate.
market sustain, and if it's someone's business plan, they've done the due diligence and they want to take the business risk, that's not our problem.
You know, I'm willing to do this, but not because it's with the intent of eliminating other businesses coming in, but we're doing this to eliminate the
Their
problems
problems.
associated with them.
We're doing them a favor in a way, so to minimize complaints.
And that's what the view I took. I don't wanna minimize, we're still keeping it a permitted use. We,
Right.
you know, we would still want them, but, you know, we're just dealing with a number of complaints. So to minimize that in the future, like if that one went in on the Walmart property, or next to Walmart, there's not much we would do besides 20 feet of landscaping along 550 and 20 feet of landscaping along 785. And
Right, but I guess that one would be, I mean, if we doubled the parking or something, it would preclude that,
Yeah.
that particular piece that would be a
Right.
problem. Like I said, that's my only worry. When I look at it, I'm just like, we are basically saying no to this type of business, except for a few spots.
Locations.
Can you,
And maybe doubling the parking would do the same thing, but I lean towards saying, let's look at maybe the less harsh of the two solutions, but that's my,
is it, and I was feeling this sort of the same way you were, Steve. Is it possible, like a lot of the ordinances say you can't do this, but if planning commission and city council, you know, so absolutely, if someone came back to us with a place and said, hey, we want to build this here, and we're willing to build a parking garage, you know, are we locked in? You know what I mean? So, there are those ordinances that say, but give us the,
yeah.
if something happens in the future, we have the discretion of.
So the way the state law is now, we really need to be direct on our ordinances.
Okay.
We can't really have, you know, they're trying to get away from the discretion part. But
Okay.
but if parking's what you wanna look at, you know, I think our ordinance says one parking stall for every 3.5 person capacity. You know, so that's assuming, you know, 3.5 people show up in a car, basically. And so, you know, we could look at the parking as well if you want, if you'd like us to evaluate that and bring it back to you in 2 weeks. And, you know, then that gives you some options to kind of weigh.
I personally would like to be able to see that option. Maybe it makes it economically unfeasible to do it anyway, but that's.
Well, one thing we know from experience is we know that the amount of parking we hope would work down there off of Gilman Lane, obviously, is
It's
not
not
enough.
working.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think it's a lot with the events, like I'm looking at the Orion, and they've got pretty much the exact same number of parking stalls.
Who does? The Orion?
The Orion, you know, they've got 70 stalls, and Wild Oak's got 68.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, if they'd have some receptions down there at Orion, we could see if it's a problem or not.
yeah. So I don't know if it's the type of event
Yeah.
that is being promoted or.
But I'll tell you, I bet you could count on the fact that generally 90% of the people are showing up 2 in a car.
Mhm.
1 to 2.
1 to 2.
Absolutely. I think, you know, I think Steve's approach is a more direct approach of seeing, okay, what's the problem? The problem is parking, or the problem is lighting, or the problem is sound. You know, his approach is more direct at that rather than just a blanket, but, you know, like I said, I could go either way if the
I think it'd still be good to at least evaluate a buffer, you know,
I
but
think
maybe
so
we
too.
cut that down and look at the parking or something. We can bring you back some options next time.
Yeah, I think parking is the main issue, but there's other things that have to be
The
mitigated.
drive a distance, a reasonable
They
distance.
have to be mitigated, and like was said, if you got people that wanted to do a development and they were willing to do a 2-story parking structure, they might be able to fill it if they had that parking, but the other issues that need to be mitigated would not be mitigated and may even be expanded.
Yeah.
Your lighting and your sound
Height.
and all those things.
When the,
So maybe something with both.
yeah.
Maybe you reduce it to 300 and then put additional
Parking.
parking requirements. So bring it down, it's gonna open it up a little bit as where they might go, but then we've increased the parking, we've increased all the problem areas.
Yeah,
Then they have to self-select out because they can't make it work.
Yeah,
I mean,
like the noise, for example, the Lindon Nursery Reception Center, the noise complaints were coming from this neighborhood to the south, so those homes are 550 feet away, and they were still complaining about the noise.
Yeah.
So,
Right, and I guess
were they
this
just mad because they weren't invited?
ordinance though would, goes to the property line too.
yeah, so for
Which-
example, their new property line is going to be,
Right
around there,
Yeah,
so they'd have to go to there.
where's 300 there, Mike? Can you just pull back to 300?
Right there,
Look. Maybe
Might work.
it might work there with 300.
yeah.
Well, think about Walker and Wadley, why you don't get complaints. It's because they do have the parking, and they do have, conscientious lighting.
Yeah. But
You know.
the sound is, well, I hear the pool more than I hear them, but when the pool's having a good party, I hear them all the time at my house.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
I
But-
rarely hear Wadley, and they're right in my
Yeah,
backyard.
so, I don't know how many complaints you get on the sound, I guess it's just part of the summer.
Yeah, sound, I'm not getting many complaints. I haven't had one in 2 years almost, so.
That's good.
So,
On what, the reception?
On the reception center.
Yeah, well, 14 months of that is because they've been out of business.
That's right.
let's go ahead and we should have closed the public hearing, and then we'll decide what we want to do on it, okay? Since there's no one here other than Mr. Vanchery.
He's the most important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pipe down.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's do a motion to close the public hearing, and then we can make a decision on whether we want to go with the 500 feet or we want to continue it and have the parking evaluated. And look at possibly 300 feet and additional parking requirement. Okay, so let's go ahead and close the public hearing.
I move to close the public hearing.
I second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous on that. Okay, so do we want to go ahead with the 500-foot buffer and approve the motion, or do we want to have it continue it and have some evaluation done on it?
Mike seems willing to do that. You understand our point.
Yeah.
A few of our points. You seem willing to do that if we can,
Continue it.
yeah, because I don't want it to look like we're trying to eliminate them. If somebody has a good,
Right.
solid plan that works, I don't want to say you can't have those anymore, but.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd suggest we come back with more study, but let's look at a combination of buffer and parking requirement,
Yeah.
or maybe something else as
Or
well.
lighting, or, I don't know.
Okay.
How this ties in with our sound ordinance, I think that finally passed,
Yeah, but it's very general.
so,
So it's not, there's no decibel levels any longer.
oh, there isn't anything in that, okay.
Yeah, see, like lighting on that one, the one in question there, maybe we can do, any lighting over this has to be from the edge of the property line pointing in, rather than from the building pointing out. It's
Yeah.
gonna cost them more to trench and get out there for power, but then it's gonna direct all their lighting, any lighting over a certain feet or height has to point in on their property, or something like that, that might.
Yeah, I'll look at what our lighting requirements are.
Yeah.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Just to clarification, are these wedding event centers, or what if it's a venue or a party?
That's why we added on the ordinance that it would be wedding/event centers.
So, if it's an event center, like a business event center, that's going on during normal business hours, are they subject to this kind of restriction?
Yeah.
I think we would be.
sure it applies for both. Mike, are you ready to make
Yeah.
a motion?
I am. I move to continue ordinance amendment 2021-5-0 and look at possible parking changes and maybe reducing the radius from 500 to 300 feet.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous on that. Okay, I guess we're on to planning commissioner reports. And I know Mike has something he needs to be to, but I wondered, do you want to just do a really quick review of the work session, or do you want Mike Vancheri, were you there for the work session?
I was at it, and I of course got the details, so, but
Okay.
this really doesn't make any difference to me.
Well, I understand, Mike, that there is a new proposal coming to council on Monday night. Can you show us that here, what that proposal is, so we can discuss it for a few moments? Just FYI, I realize
I'd
we
like
don't
to
have.
send it out to you tomorrow. I need to put a staff report together still.
Okay, yeah, 'cause I
Okay.
realize it's not, we have no input, but it'd be
Yeah,
just,
I'll send it to you tomorrow.
okay.
So, hasn't changed a ton, you know, a little more transition. But, so I'll send it out to you tomorrow after I get it ready.
Well, and the majority don't want the road going through 570.
They don't?
Uh-uh.
I thought the last week was
Yeah.
3-2, it was 3 did and 2 didn't.
Well, that could be in flux right now. There's Councilman Jake can't vote on it, he has to recuse himself.
Right.
Right.
I think everyone knows how I would vote. There's two others that, at least one, that I believe will approve 570 going through.
Mhm.
And if the other two don't, then the mayor would be the tiebreaker. And again, I would never want to speak for him officially, but my sense in my discussions with him is he's also favors 570 going through.
Well, I understood, I was talking to Carolyn this afternoon, and she indicated unfortunately that this next time, if it comes up for a vote, she won't be there. So that'll really push it to a,
But we may need to, and I think that's another issue, but I think.
yeah,
it's
she
important-
indicated this
it's
is the
important
first,
that she be there.
she said this is the first time only the third time since she's been here that she's not gonna be able to be there. And she says she's not sure she's gonna have connectivity to join remotely either, so.
But I don't-
It might be important that you move that to another
Yeah,
meeting.
and I'll make mention, I'm sure Mike will too.
I
Yeah.
already have, so
Yeah,
they've
yeah.
said they want to move forward.
Yeah.
Well, okay. The council wants to move forward,
The
or?
developer.
Oh, interesting.
So does that mean they found another builder?
I don't think so, not that I've heard.
I think it's just interesting from the last, I think it was the work committee, the work meeting. It was interesting at the end, the comment that she made was basically, tell me how you want the roads and I'll work around it. And she sort of got to the point where she was a little bit, okay, just tell me what you need and then I'll make it fit. Now, and so, I mean, so it sounds like she's at the point where she wants to acquiesce a little bit.
Well, but in all fairness, she's been told many times.
Oh, yeah.
What we want and expect, and it seems like every time she comes back, it's one or two things that aren't quite what we asked for or different than what we expected. So I appreciate her frustration as much as anyone, but
My impression is,
she hasn't been listening very well, in my opinion.
yeah, and I think that's what I was gonna say.
Mike
My
would say that.
impression is she came back, she went like, okay, we're done with planning commission, she went back to ground zero and tried to push everything through that the planning commission had said no to. You know, she didn't really take our advice and just sort of like started anew with the city council.
We had to think we had to think a little bit about that when that came up. I mean, you guys basically denied 570 remaining a cul-de-sac. That was what we were.
That was our recommendation, yeah.
Yeah, that was your recommendation. Some of them got a little confused on that, so we had to kind of change the motion. I approve or I deny, or if I approve it, what happens? If I deny it, what happens?
It was the same way in the commission. It was
Yeah,
hard to
yeah.
put that together.
Again, personally, and it's just me personally, I think that everybody needs to share the wealth. I'm not sure it's fair that 550 gets the brunt of it and the 600 gets the brunt of it. And but again, that's just my opinion, and that's the wonderful part of the system. We all have our opinions, but I think for the city at large, that's the best solution in my mind.
But from what Mike says, if it's a tie vote, you know, if the mayor votes and it's 2 and 2, it fails.
Yeah, that's true. There's got to be a way. I'm sure Mike will look at the mayor.
Fails.
I think there's a way that someone can vote unless she doesn't have access.
Can't she put a proxy out or something? Can't she sign?
I don't think so.
She can vote either telephonically or electronically, as I understand it. So that's to be worked out.
So I'll send it to you tomorrow.
Thanks.
Well, yeah, that'll be interesting to get. Just a couple of things really quickly. I asked about the swimming pool passes because that's an important thing to me, and Kathy's checking on that. And they'll let us know on that. And then park reservations. We used to be able to have park reservations, and then that got taken away from us. But then I understand we can have that again.
Yeah, I'm sorry for interrupting again, but I personally went and researched that and came back to the council, and most of them were extremely surprised that that was even an issue.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the way, there was a miscommunication that was not to be given to you. I was told it was always the plan that you have access to the pool passes, you have access to the, was it 5 rentals a year or 4 rentals, something like that, to the public buildings and so forth. So I
The
probably
parks.
failed in sharing that with you, but my understanding from the mayor, from Adam, and from the other council members is that's definitely something you're entitled to. And
Oh, great.
What's the benefit?
Well, just you can reserve a city park without cost.
Or like the
Right.
building, like the little building down by the
The
park.
Veterans Hall, which is at City Center Park, Veterans Hall or Pavilion.
And there's another advantage, those things go, like you would believe, the swimming passes on eBay and KSL Classified. You can sell those things for a ton.
And now we know how to supplement our big income.
There you go.
Just one
I
question.
use mine.
One question on the pool pass. Are they, I know they talked before the pandemic to let them roll over year to year.
That's what they said last year.
They do now.
Good.
Yeah.
So I don't have to take the whole neighborhood on the last day because I haven't
I threw
used
mine
it.
away. I threw it away, it was expired, it said 20.
But we will be able to get new ones.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay. That's all I have, and I know Mike's needing to, do you have anything else
Just
to
want to
bring
go
up
over
with us?
really quick, just what's on your agenda for next time. About 3.5 years ago, before Anders and I were here, you guys approved some storage units to go here on 2nd South and about 850 West. They've now, so that, they lost their entitlements, they didn't do anything with it. So they've reapplied. They have also purchased this property here that they want to rezone on from residential to light industrial. And so then they've put their new site plan together. So they're going to be coming to you next time for a minor subdivision, a major subdivision, and a zone change.
Now, where is this at? Which one?
2nd South and 850 West.
Somebody wants to take residential and make it commercial? Which is,
Yeah, they wanna-
What's
They-
close by there?
Well,
Whitewater's,
Hanson is.
yeah, Whitewater and,
Fazari Bikes.
yeah, they're not there anymore, but
That's where they
there's
used
a
to be.
motorcycle place in there now, yeah.
So-
But they're wanting to do storage units again?
Yes, And they've got a different business model. They want to sell each one of them, so you'd have, 75 different owners of storage units there, so,
Minimize storage.
yeah.
Does Olson own that property too?
I'm not sure. It just says Lindon Storage on the ownership.
Then how are you gonna deal with the roof, the exterior?
Or something.
So,
That'll be interesting.
That's Steve Davy.
no, it's a
They do
different group.
units?
Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
So, other item, another zone change for this property here, 4 South of Lindon Parkway. You've got Home Depot. They want to rezone this to mixed commercial. So they want to do some office warehouse type buildings that are really popular. Like Mark Weldon's built a ton of those over around the PG interchange and on 700, close to 700 North. So that they want to put 2 of those on this property here, possibly a third in the future.
What happened to the property north? They came to us just north of the traffic circle, right there, that blank spot. That was,
That
we had a
one.
big discussion about that, and
Yeah.
4 stories, they
Yeah.
decided on that.
what's going on with that?
And unfortunately, working from home has been very popular, so.
So they don't need the space.
But Bamboo HR was on KSL a couple weeks ago where they're going to now be hiring 500 employees.
Wow.
So
Yeah, I saw that.
they may be looking at that office building again.
Hey, can I add one thing that I think everybody on the commission needs to know, and is that we have a Lindon resident that's doing some amazing world record 100
Oh, yeah.
Ironmans at 100 days, and he swims here in the morning at the Lindon City
Yeah.
Pool, and then he bikes, and then he's on the Murdoch Trail all evening. And he's on number 71 or 72, so he's gonna get there, and it's really exciting.
I think
And we
everyone
need to make
should
sure our
do that.
city is out there on Murdoch Trail on when he hits 99 and 100 or whatever, but,
I know there'll be a big event
Yeah, I
at
thought there was-
Friar Park.
Friar Park, they were planning a big event when he hits
okay, well,
100.
how did we not know this? Where do we find this out?
So they'll
I
be
just heard through the
announcing it.
grapevine.
The chief's working with his
Okay,
daughter on the event planning. The chief of police is, so that'll be coming out soon.
There's an Instagram, he's got an
Yes, he
Instagram
does.
account that you can go into and follow all day long.
yeah.
There's an article on the
KSL
newsletter
did story
that I've
on it
been-
too.
Okay, so you can click on the link.
So
Yeah.
real quick,
I live right there, and that's like my ward boundaries, and I'm like, I want to get my ward out there, like, start coming out in the evenings and like cheering them on, or flags, or
we had a little
banners, signs.
controversy about a month ago because the trail's maintained by the county, and right when he started, he had coolers in strategic locations.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the county didn't know it was him, that was part of an event, and so they took all of his coolers. And so, but they didn't know.
They're out there now, so I
They
think,
didn't know, but, yeah. The last item for next meeting will be, 130 South and 200 West. You've approved a 4-lot subdivision here for Jeremy Ackley before. Then you approved another 4-lot subdivision here on this cul-de-sac. Now this property owner wants to do a 6 or 7-lot subdivision in this area, so,
Residential.
residential, yeah.
I'm surprised if there's that this previous one has wants to convert residential